ಸಂಸಾರದಾವ ನಲಲಿದಲೋಕ ತ್ರನಯ ಕಾರುಣ್ಯ ಘನ ಘನಾತ್ವಂ प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् कल्याण गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् महाप्रभु कीर्तन नृत्य गीता वादित्रमाद्यान् मनसो रसेना गीता मनसो रसेना रोमाञ्चकं पाशुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमर्जनाधो धननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमर्जनाधो युक्तस्य भक्तांश्च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्रीभगवत्प्रसाद स्वाद्वन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान् विदा श्रीभगवत्प्रसाद स्वाद्वन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान् कृतैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपार माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नां श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपार माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्ना प्रतीक्षणास्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् प्रतीक्षणास्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् निकुञ्जयूनो रतकेली सिद्धै यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रातिदक्षादतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् तत्रार्तिदक्षादतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् साक्षादरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैरुक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः समस्तशास्त्रैरुक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभोया प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति ध्यायां स्तुवां तस्य यस्य स्त्रीसन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं ध्यायां स्तुवां तस्य यस्य स्त्रीसन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं 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 चरणरविन्दं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा जय श्री चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा जय चैतन्य चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा जय चैतन्य चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Nila Madhav, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Shyam Sundar, Radha श्याम सुंदर श्री राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर श्री राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रमा जय सुदर्शन चक्र जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रमा जय सुदर्शन चक्र जय सीताराम जय सीताराम सीताराम जय लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय सीताराम सीताराम जय लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह 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 सिंह जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरा जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Srila Harisasa ko ki jai. Premise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dadar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Kiri Goradan ki jai. Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dam ki jai. Shri Maya Pranavadvip Dam ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dam ki jai. Shri Ayodhya Dam ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Yamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Samavrita Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Harinama Sankirtan ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari. All glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru and Gaurang, all glory to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लादलाददायिने हिरण्यकाशिपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानकालाये इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा बाहिर्नैसिंहा हृदये नैसिंहा नरसिंहमतिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरेणकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तानुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे नकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तानुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवसच विष्णुभक्तिपदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilashi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilashi Je tomara sharanalo Tara vansha purna hoy Sharanalo Tara vansha purna hoy Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavanavasi Muraye Abhilash Bilas kunje diyowas Kaye Abhilash Nayane heribo sada Jugalaru parasi Nivedana daro Sakiranugata koro Sevadikara diye Koro nijadasi Dina Krishna dase koi Iye namora hoy Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadai Navasi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadai Navasi Yani kani cha papani brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani pranashanti pradakshina pade Yani kani cha papani brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani pranashanti pradakshina pade Yani kani cha papani brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani pranashanti pradakshina pade Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Jaya Vrinda Devi, 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 Jaya Vrinda, Jaya Bhakti Devi, Jaya Bhakti Devi, Jaya Bhakti Devi, Jaya Bhakti Devi. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shrirundaya Tulsi Devyaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pratideve Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Shrirundaya Tulsi Devyaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pratideve Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Shrirundaya Tulsi Devyaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pratideve Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Shrirunda Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki.
O Tulasi, beloved of Krishna, I bow down before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavan. My desire to also grant me residence in the precious groves of Shri Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follow a Kara Denso Raja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in the love Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulasi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Veda literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of our special ritualistic activities offered in Vedas as fruitive activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glory of the holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names and to maintain material attachments in your understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses. In order to quickly achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as trees who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shakshastakam ki jai. Jeto Darpana Marjanam Pava Mahadavakni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Pudivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamita Sadhanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namagari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Eta Deshi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durudevami Disham Iha Janina Nuragaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadaharihi Na Thanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stithaturi Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Karada Shurudaraya Vatanam Katkata Rudaya Gira Pulakaya Nichitam Vapur Kada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishati Yuga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravisha Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashri Shava Padratam Binnastumam Adarshana Marmhatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Va Vidatatu Lampato Mat Prananatastu Se Eva Naparaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shakshastakam ki jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction human beings. Thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out kindness enables to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate have no attraction for them. One should chant holy name of Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more taller than the tree, devoid all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotional service, birth after birth. O Sanhamarjananda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death, and place me at one of the items of your lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant the holy name. While my voice choke up, all the hair of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation comes in a moment to be like a great melody. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shakshastakam ki jai.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai.
ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुमृतं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथां वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वती इति नामिने। श्रीवर्षपाणिवि देवी दयिताय कृपप्तये कृष्णसम्बन्धविज्ञानदायिने प्रभवे नमः। माधुर्योज्ज्वलप्रेमाद्य श्रीरूपनुगभक्तित श्रीगौरकर्णशक्तिविग्रहाय नमोस्तुते। नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुगविरुदापसिद्धान्तद्वन्द्वहारिणे। नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्बरसम्बोधे पादं पूजायते नमः। नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगवरायते। गौराविर्भावभूमिस्त्वं निर्दिष्टा सज्जनप्रियः वैष्णवसवभौमा श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमपदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरथिषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। हे कृष्ण करुणसिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। जयतां सुरथो भङ्गो मम मन्दमतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदं भोजो राधा मदनमोहनो दिव्यद्वृन्दारण्यकौपजुमदः श्रीमद्रानाकार सिंहासनस्थो श्रीमद्राधा शिलगोविन्ददेवो पृष्ठादिभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि। श्रीमन्रासरसरम्बिवं शिवतथस्थितः कर्षवेणुसुनिर्गोपीर्गोपीनाथ श्रीयस्तुनः तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ईश्वर परम कृष्ण सच्चिदानंद विग्रह अनादिराद्य गोविंद सर्वकारण कारणं चिंतामणि प्रखर सत्मसुखोपवीक्ष लक्षावृतेषु सुरभिरभिपालयन्तं लक्ष्मी सहस्रशतसम्भ्रमसेव्यमानं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। वेणुकवनन्तमरविन्ददलायताक्षं पार्हर्वतं समसितं बुधसुन्दरङ्गं गन्धर्वकोटिकमनीयविशेषशोभं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। आलोलचन्द्रकलसवनमाल्यवं श्रीरानङ्गदं प्रणयकेलिकलाविलासं श्यामं त्रिभङ्गललितं नियतप्रकाशं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। अङ्गान्यस्य सकलेन्द्रियवृत्तिमन्ति पश्यन्ति पान्ति कलयन्ति चिरं जगन्ति आनन्दचिन्मयसदुज्ज्वलविग्रहस्य गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। अद्वैतमच्युतमनादिमनन्तरूपम् आद्यं पुराणपुरुषं नवयौवनं च वेदेषु दुर्लभम् अदुर्लभम् आत्मभक्तो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। panta sukho tishata sambrahma sambrakamyo vayurathapi manaso munipangavaanam sopyasti yaprapada simya vichinta tattve govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami ekopya saurya chaitum jagadanta kotim yachaktirasti jagadanta chayaya danta antantarastha paramanu chayantarastham govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami yad bhava pavita diyo manuchastateva samprapya rupa mahimasanayana pusha suktaryam eva nikama patithaistu vanti govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami ananta chimmaya rasa patipavitapi stharpiya eva nijarupataya kalapi goloka eva nivasati kalatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami premanjana churata bhakti vilochanena santa sadeva hidayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundam achintya guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami ramadi murtishu kalanyamena tishtan nanavataram akaro bhuvaneshu kintu krishna swayam samabhava paramah pumam yo govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or gopis. Prabhuji, Prabhuji. You know, we have a festival coming up this weekend, Sean. We're going to need your help.
Yeah, yes, I will be there, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute. With blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Sham Sundara is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, and is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation, millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion, sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, the Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasas. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Sham Sundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eyes of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world, in the forms of Rama, Nishinga, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yata Niviyat Itaratascha Teso Vidyaswarat Tenai Brana Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsura Yaha Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatrachi Sargo Misha Damna Swena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire, or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So this is a very interesting verse because it explains that even the great sages and demigods are placed in illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, when you're driving down, let's say, a highway, an asphalt highway, on a summer day, and it's very hot, you see, or it seems like you see water in the distance. That is due to what you would call an illusory representation due to different levels of heat that are bouncing off of the asphalt surface of the road in the distance. And it creates an illusory representation. It looks like there's water, but there's no water. You see. And the same way, if you're on a boat in the ocean, in the vast ocean, and you see land in the distance, but there's no land there. Again, it's an optical illusion due to different levels of heat being bouncing off of the surface of the water. So it says here that Even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. Well, these material universes, because they're temporarily manifested, they appear factual, although they're unreal. That is, in Sanskrit language, in Sanskrit teaching, there is sat and asat. Sat means those things which are eternally manifest and never can be destroyed. And asat means things that are only temporarily manifest. So things that are temporarily manifest, like this body, like buildings, cars, all these things, they're considered asat, or not eternal, and because of that, illusory. Why? Because they'll be present, and then they disappear, and then you're left with nothing. So it's illusory in that sense. They have temporary existence. You cannot deny their temporary existence. But because they do not have eternal existence, they disappear, and you're left with nothing. See? So, therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, it says that people or devotees who are concerned with knowing the truth only meditate on things that are eternal. Those things that are not eternal, they don't reject them. They accept their temporary existence. But knowing that they are not eternal, they are not, let's say, preoccupied by those things. So this verse in the Bhagavatam is very important because it shows that the preoccupation of a devotee is with things that are eternal. Like, for example, chanting the holy names of Krishna are eternal. The Lord is eternal, His holy name is eternal, so therefore devotees will spend most of their time chanting the holy names and glorifying the Lord. But most people will spend their time glorifying mundane people and concentrating on things that are temporary. Baseball games, football games, and soccer and cricket, and making money, and the stock market, and politics, and so forth. So basically, they're dealing with things that are asat all the time. And in the end, they have no, what you would call standing, or no solid basis on which to base their claim to go back to Godhead. So, therefore, the devotees are more concerned with sat than asat. So, that's what's being explained in this verse. So, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2, Dharma Pujita Kaitra Vocha Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavatra Vastu Sividam Tapo Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Purer Ishwaraha Sadyurhidya Varudyate Tra Kriti Bihisa Suksabhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Muhur Ahoraska Bhuvibhavaka. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit, the desired truth of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj Ki Jai. So today we're going to begin chapter 11, calculation of time from the atom. Now this is a complicated topic. We're not going to dwell a long time on trying to understand everything that's being said. There are just a few things that we can understand, and so we'll begin. Maitreya Uvacha Karama Sad. One second. Karama Sad Viseshanam Aneko Samyuta Sada Paramanu Savijgeyo Rinam Aikya Brahmo Yata. Maitreya Uvacha. Maitreya said, Karama, ultimate, Sat, effect, Viseshanam, symptoms, Anika, innumerable, Asamyuta, unmixed, Sada, always, Parama Anu, atoms, Sa, that, Vigyeya, should be understood, Nrinam, of men, Aikya, oneness, Brahma, mistaken, Yata, from which. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The material manifestation's ultimate particle, which is indivisible and not formed into a body, is called the atom. It exists always as an invisible identity, even after the dissolution of all forms. The material body is but a combination of such atoms, but it is misunderstood by the common man. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The atomic description of the Srimad Bhagavatam is almost the same as the modern science of atomism. And this is further described in the Paramanu Vada of Kannada. So Kannada is one of the propounders of Vedic knowledge. You have 6 Saddarshans, or 6 philosophical schools, main schools, for understanding Vedic knowledge. And Kannada is one of them, and he is propounding the atomic theory of life. So, in modern science also, the atom is accepted as the ultimate indivisible particle of which the universe is composed. Srimad Bhagavatam is the full text of all descriptions of knowledge, including the theory of atomism. The atom is the minute subtle form of eternal time. Okay, now this is not an easy subject to understand, right? We're not going to spend a long time trying to understand everything, but we're going to understand certain things that that are fundamental. So there is a similarity between the scientist's concept of an ultimate, let's say, particle called the atom, and the Vedic concept of the atom. But there are, let's say, misconceptions by the scientists of what exactly is an atom. So let's get it straight here. It says, the atomic description of the Srimad Bhagavatam is almost the same as the modern science of atomism. And this is further described in the Paramanuvada of Kannada. In modern science also, the atom is accepted as the ultimate indivisible particle of which the universe is composed. Now, if you look in modern science today, you'll see that they have these cyclotrons, and they speed up the speed of particles, and then they split them. So now their whole research is splitting atoms. So therefore, and they give names to each one of the new splits of the atoms that they perceive, right? So they have not actually, I mean, they believe that there is some fundamental, let's say, particle, but they're not sure anymore because they keep splitting the atoms and they keep coming up with little splinters of other things, say. And they give names to all those other things. So now it's become very confusing. What is actually an atom in modern science? So it says, Srimad Bhagavatam is a full text of all descriptions of knowledge, including the theory of atomism. The atom is the minute, subtle form of eternal time. Now, do the scientists say that? No, they don't say that. Right. So next verse. We're going to just read quickly now. Atoms are the ultimate state of the manifest universe. When they stay in their own forms without forming different bodies, they are called unlimited oneness. There are certainly different bodies and physical forms, but the atoms themselves form the complete manifestation. One can estimate time by measuring the movement of the atomic combination of bodies. Time is the potency of the Almighty Personality of Godhead, Hari, who controls all physical movement, although he is not visible in the physical world. Atomic time is measured according to its covering a particular part atomic space. That time which covers the unmanifest aggregate of atoms is called the great time. Time and space are two correlative terms. Time is measured in terms of its covering a certain space of atoms. Standard time is calculated in terms of the movement of the sun. The time covered by the sun in passing over an atom is calculated as atomic time. The greatest time of all covers the entire existence of the non-dual manifestation. All the planets rotate and cover space, and space is calculated in terms of atoms. Each planet has its particular orbit for rotating, in which it moves without deviation, and similarly the sun has its orbit. The complete calculation of time of creation, maintenance, and dissolution, measured in terms of the circulation of the total planetary systems until the end of creation, is known as the supreme kala, or the supreme time. Next, the division of gross time is calculated as follows. 2 atoms makes 1 double atom, and 3 double atoms makes 1 hex atom. This hex atom is visible in the sunshine, which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hex atom goes up towards the sky. Okay, now, this is something we can understand because we can see it. We can't see the atom itself. It's invisible, right? This was said in the first verse. It says, the material manifestation's ultimate particle, which is indivisible and is not formed into a body, is called the atom. It exists always as an invisible identity. That's the first verse. An invisible identity. Even after the dissolution of all forms, the material body is but a combination of such atoms, but it is misunderstood by the common man. Now, in this verse number 5, something very interesting is being said, and this is something that you can actually see. And it says, the division of gross time is calculated as follows. 2 atoms make 1 double atom, and 3 double atoms make 1 hex atom. This hex atom is visible in the sunshine, which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hex atom goes up toward the sky. So now, the next sunny day, when light is coming through your window, and there's and you have a screen, right? People put these screens to stop the insects from coming into the house, right? So now you're going to be able to see a hex atom. And this is something, this is a scientific thing. You can't see the atom itself, or one atom, because it's invisible, but you can see the hex atom, a combination of 6 atoms that comes through that screen, and you'll be able to see them. So this little experiment you can do at home. And it says, one can clearly see that the hex atom goes upward towards the sky. Purport. The atom is described as an invisible particle, but when 6 such atoms combine together, they are called a trasarenu, and this is visible in the sunshine pouring through the holes of a window screen. There you go. You can do an experiment. Okay. Now, these other verses that we're going to more or less not skip over, but just go through them real quickly till we get to the next part of this, let's say, chapter that we can understand. What we're going to hear now, it's going to be hard to understand, right? And I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. So text 6. The time duration needed for the integration of 3 trasarenus is called a truti, and 100 trutis makes 1 Veda. 3 Vedas makes 1 lava. Okay. And purport, it is calculated that if a second is divided into 1,687.5 parts, each part is the duration of a truti, which is the time occupied in the integration of 18 atomic particles. Such a combination of atoms into different bodies creates the calculation of material time. The sun is the central point for calculating all different durations. Now, I don't expect myself to understand this. I don't expect you to understand this. If you think you understand it, that's good. We're just going to skip through this really quickly. The duration of time of 3 lavas is equal to 1 makes 1 kshana. 5 kshanas combined together make 1 kasta, and 15 kastas make 1 lagu. By calculation, it is found that 1 lagu is equal to 2 minutes. The atomic calculation of time in terms of Vedic wisdom may be converted into present time with this understanding. Notice the word may. Okay. Text 8. 15 lagus makes 1 nadika, which is also called a danda. 2 dandas makes 1 muhurta, and 6 or 7 dandas makes 1/4 of a day or night, according to human calculations. Text 9. The measuring pot for 1 nadika or danda can be prepared with a 6 pala weight 14-ounce pot of copper, in which a hole is bored with a gold probe weighing 4 masa and measuring 4 fingers long. When the pot is placed in water, the time before the water overflows in the pot is called 1 danda. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is advised herein that the bore in the copper measuring pot must be made with a probe weighing not more than 4 masa and measuring not longer than 4 fingers. This regulates the diameter of the hole. The pot is submerged in water, and the overflooding time is called a danda. This is another way of measuring the duration of a danda, just as time is measured by sand in a glass. It appears that in the days of Vedic civilization, there was no dearth of knowledge in physics, chemistry, or higher mathematics. Measurements were calculated in different ways, as simply as could be done. Next verse. It is calculated that there are 4 praharas, which are also called yamas, in the day and 4 in the night of the human being. Similarly, 15 days and nights are a fortnight, and there are 2 fortnights, white and black, in a month. Next verse. The aggregate of 2 fortnights is 1 month, and that period is 1 complete day and night for the Pita planets. There you go, Pita planets. Right. 2 of such months comprise 1 season, and 6 months comprise 1 complete movement of the sun from south to north. Text 12. 2 solar movements make 1 day and night of the demigods, and that combination of day and night is 1 complete calendar year for the human being. The human being has a duration of life of 100 years. So we see the relativity in the material world, right? The time of the devas is different than the time that we are experiencing. Next verse. Influential stars, planets, luminaries, and atoms all over the universe are rotating in their respective orbits under the direction of the Supreme, represented by eternal kala, or time. Purport. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the sun is the eye of the Supreme, and it rotates in its particular orbit of time. Similarly, beginning from the sun down to the atom, all bodies are under the influence of the Kala Chakra, or the orbit of eternal time, and each of them has a scheduled orbital time of 1 samvatsara. Text 14. There are 5 different names for the orbits of the sun, moon, stars, and luminaries in the firmament, and they each have their own samvatsara. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Now, this is an important purport. This is something we can understand. The subject matters of physics, chemistry, mathematics, and astronomy, time and space, dealt with in the above verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, are certainly very interesting to students of the particular subject. But as far as we are concerned, we cannot explain them very thoroughly in terms of technical knowledge. The subject is summarized by the statement that above all the different branches of knowledge is the supreme control of the Kala, the plenary representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Kala means time. It's the impersonal expansion of the Lord. Nothing exists without him, and therefore everything, however wonderful it may appear to our meager knowledge, is but the work of the magical wand of the Supreme Lord. As far as time is concerned, we beg to subjoin herewith a table of timings in terms of the modern clock. So now you see, I don't know if you're looking at it right now, but you can see all these different gradations of time. 1 Shruti, 1 Veda, 1 Lava, 1 Nimesa, Makshana, Makasta, and so forth. Things that he described, they were described previously, and now he gives the equivalents in a modern calculation of time. 2 pakshas comprise 1 month, the 12 months comprise 1 calendar year, and 1 full orbit of the sun. A human being is expected to live up to 100 years. That is the way of the controlling measure of eternal time. The Brahma Samhita 5.52 confirms this control in this way. Yaschaksuresa savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurtirasesa teja yasya gaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. So, this is a very nice explanation by Prabhupada. In other words, he's saying, look, as far as we're concerned, we cannot explain all these things very thoroughly in terms of technical knowledge. The subject is summarized by the statement that above all, the different branches of knowledge is the supreme control of Kala, the plenary representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what we should understand. If we want to understand all this technical divisions of time, you can try. I mean, there's an explanation is given. But the main point is everything is being controlled by Krishna. Okay. What?
Some of them are still commonly used in our day-to-day things. Like
In India?
yeah, Shana. So very common, like we got Shanbar, like Shana. Then we have Muhurt, and then we have Prahar. So these three actually I know for like very used commonly.
Paksha is also
Paksha.
Truti, like typically when some people miss like accidents. So Trutilo Tappina Pramadam means like in Truti is like 8 by whatever. That means like it's a split second
Right.
analogy. So
Right.
Truti has another meaning also. Like in Truti means like a drawback.
Like a what?
Truti means drawback. So it's
What is-
another meaning for Truti. So I'm not sure, but that's how it is pronounced Truti.
Okay, but
Anyway, yeah, but just one thing.
here you have at least something that you can study and get a general understanding of. Okay, so now we come to text 15, where it says, O Vidura, the sun enlivens all living entities with his unlimited heat and light. He diminishes the duration of life of all living entities in order to release them from their illusion of material attachment, and he enlarges the path of elevation to the heavenly kingdom. He thus moves in the firmament with great velocity, and therefore everyone should offer him respects once every 5 years with all ingredients of worship. Well, this is sun worship, right? Vidura said, I now understand the life durations of the residents of the Pita planets and heavenly planets, as well as that of the human beings. Now kindly inform me of the durations of life of those greatly learned living entities who are beyond the range of a kalpa. The partial dissolution of the universe, purport, that takes place at the end of Brahma's day does not affect all the planetary systems. The planets of highly learned living entities like sages, Sanaka and Brigu, are not affected by the dissolutions of the millenniums. All the planets are of different types, and each is controlled by a different Kala Chakra, or schedule of eternal time. The time of the Earth planet is not applicable to other, more elevated planets. Therefore, Vidura here inquires about the duration of life on other planets. So, not all planets are destroyed. There are 3 types of destructions that take place. And the higher planets are not affected by the not by every one of the destructions. So therefore, when it says here, kindly inform me of the durations of life of those greatly learned living entities who are beyond the range of a kalpa. So kalpa is the like 1,000. Huh?
1,000 Chatru Yogas?
Yes. So he wants to know what the duration of life is of these individuals who are not affected by the lesser destructions that take place in the universe. Right? So Vidura herein inquires about the duration of life on other planets. So the duration of life on other planets are different. Some people live, look at the duration of life of Lord Brahma. And then the duration, so you have these higher planets that are not affected by destructions that take place. There's different types of universal destructions. And there's one absolute destruction where everything is destroyed. So not all the planets are destroyed every time there's a partial destruction of the universe. So then text 17, O spiritually powerful one, you can understand the movements of eternal time, which is the controlling form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because you are a self-realized person, you can see everything by the power of mystic vision. So this mystic vision, this yoga radena, by dint of mystic vision, chakshusa, by the eyes. So that means there is a possibility, even for us, to develop this mystic vision. Purport. Those who have reached the highest perfectional stage of mystic power and can see everything in the past, present, and future are called Trikalagyas. Trikalagyas. Similarly, the devotees of the Lord can see everything clearly that is in the revealed scriptures. The devotees of Lord Sri Krishna can very easily understand the science of Krishna as well as the situation of the material and spiritual creations without difficulty. Devotees do not have to endeavor for any yoga siddhis or perfection in mystic powers. They are competent to understand everything by the grace of the Lord who is sitting in everyone's heart. This is a very important purport. It means that to become Trikalagyas, being able to see past, present, and future. Prabhupada is saying, okay, that's a technical thing, but it's possible also for devotees of the Lord to see everything clearly that is in the revealed scriptures. The devotees of Lord Sri Krishna can very easily understand the science of Krishna as well as the situation of the material and spiritual creations without difficulty. Devotees do not have to endeavor for any yoga siddhi or perfection in mystic powers. So now that shows the difference between Durvasa Muni, who was a perfect mystic yogi, and Ambarish Maharaj, who was a perfect devotee, who was completely surrendered to the Lord. He didn't have control of all the yoga siddhis like Durvasa Muni, but actually he was able to defeat Durvasa Muni. Not that he was trying to defeat him, but he was able to defeat him by remaining completely surrendered to Krishna. So we see that the yoga siddhis, although there are tremendous powers, are nothing compared to the tejas, or the power of a pure devotee. So, therefore, Prabhupada says, devotees do not have to endeavor for any yoga siddhi or perfection in mystic powers. They are competent to understand everything by the grace of the Lord, who is sitting in everyone's heart. So Krishna will give us understanding of these, what you would call esoteric ideas and principles. Okay, text 18. Maitreya said, O Vidura, the 4 millenniums are called the Satya, Chaitya, Dwapara, and Kali Yugas. The aggregate number of years of all these combined is equal to 12,000 years of the demigods. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The years of the demigods are equal to 360 years of humankind. As will be clarified in the subsequent verses, 12,000 of the demigods' years, including the transitional periods, which are called Yuga Sandhyas, comprise the total of the aforementioned 4 millenniums. Thus, the aggregate of the above-mentioned 4 millenniums is 4,320,000 years. Text 19. The duration of the Satya millennium equals 4,800 years of the demigods. The duration of the Chaitya millennium equals 3,600 years of the demigods. The duration of the Dwapara millennium equals 2,400 years. And that of the Kali millennium is 1,200 years of the demigods. Purport. As aforementioned, 1 year of the demigods is equal to 360 years of the human beings. The duration of Satya Yuga is therefore 4,800 times 360, or 1,728,000 years. The duration of Treta Yuga is 3,600 times 360, or 1,296,000 years. The duration of Dwapara Yuga is 2,400 times 360, or 864,000 years. And the last, the Kali Yuga, is 1,200 times 360, or 432,000 years.
Reducing by 400,000.
Huh?
Roughly, it is reducing 400,000 each yuga.
Yes.
No, it's doubling. Like start from Kali, double that.
Yeah, double or opposite 400. Yeah.
Text 20. The transitional periods before and after every millennium, which are a few hundred years as aforementioned, are known as Yuga Sandhyas, or the conjunctions of 2 millenniums, according to the expert astronomers. In those periods, all kinds of religious activities are performed. So there are these special times in the universe where there's overlapping of these different yugas, and those become very auspicious for performing spiritual activities. Text 21. O Vidura, in the Satya millennium, mankind properly and completely maintain the principles of religion. But in other millenniums, religion gradually decreased by 1 part as irreligion was proportionately admitted. Purport. In the Satya millennium, complete execution of religious principles prevailed. Gradually, the principles of religion decreased by 1 part in each of the subsequent millenniums. In other words, at present, there is 1 part religion and 3 parts irreligion. Therefore, people in this age are not very happy. Text 22. Outside of the 3 planetary systems, Swarga, Martya, and Patala, the 4 yugas multiplied by 1,000 comprise 1 day on the planet of Brahma. A similar period comprises the night of Brahma, in which the creator of the universe goes to sleep. When Brahma goes to sleep in his nighttime, the 3 planetary systems below Brahmaloka are all submerged in the water of devastation. In his sleeping condition, Brahma dreams about the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and takes instruction from the Lord for the rehabilitation of the devastated area of space. So there are different, like we said, destructions of the material universe, what you would call partial destructions. and then there's one complete destruction. After the end of Brahma's night, the creation of the three worlds begins again in the daytime of Brahma, and they continue to exist through the life durations of 14 consecutive Manus, or fathers of mankind. At the end of the life of each Manu, there are shorter dissolutions also. So there are many dissolutions, right? Each and every Manu enjoys a life of a little more than 71 sets of 4 millenniums. So there's 1,000 millenniums, and it's divided amongst the durations of Manu's lives. And there's, how many Manus are there? We'll find out in a second. The duration of life of a Manu comprises 71 sets of 4 millenniums. Okay, so that's the duration of a Manu, right? And there's 14 Manus, I'm sorry. So, therefore, there's some overlapping that happens. So that overlapping are periods where there can be very, let's say, extensive spiritual activity. The duration of life of a Manu comprises 71 sets of 4 millenniums. As described in the Vishnu Purana, the duration of life of one Manu is about 852,000 years in the calculation of the demigods, or in the calculation of human beings, 306,720,000 years. So that is the duration of life of one Manu, all right? And there are 14 Manus. After the dissolution of each and every Manu, the next Manu comes in order, along with his descendants, who rule over the different planets, but the 7 famous sages and the demigods, like Indra and their followers, such as the Gandharvas, all appear simultaneously with Manu. Purport. There are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma, there it is, and each of them has different descendants. Okay, text 26. In the creation during Brahma's day, the 3 planetary systems, Swarga, Martya, and Patala, revolve, and the inhabitants, including the lower animals, human beings, demigods, and pitas, appear and disappear in terms of their fruitive activities. Text 27. In each and every change of Manu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears by manifesting his internal potency in different incarnations as Manu and others. Thus he maintains the universe by discovered power. Text 28. At the end of the day, under the insignificant portion of the mode of darkness, the powerful manifestation of the universe merges in the darkness of night. By the influence of eternal time, the innumerable living entities remain merged in that dissolution, and everything is silent. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse is an explanation of the night of Brahma, which is the effect of the influence of time in touch with an insignificant portion of the modes of material nature in darkness. The dissolution of the 3 worlds is affected by the incarnation of darkness, Rudra, represented by the fire of eternal time, which blazes over the 3 worlds. These 3 worlds are known as Bhu, Bhuva, and Swa, Patala, Martya, and Swarga. The innumerable living entities merge into that dissolution, which appears to be the dropping of the curtain of the scene of the Supreme Lord's energy, and so everything becomes silent. This is scary, very scary. Text 29. When the night of Brahma ensues, all the three worlds are out of sight, and the sun and the moon are without glare, just as in the due course of an ordinary night. It is understood that the glare of the sun and moon disappear from the sphere of the three worlds, but the sun and moon themselves do not vanish. They appear in the remaining portion of the universe which is beyond the sphere of the three worlds. The portion in dissolution remains without sun rays or moon glow. It all remains dark and full of water, and there are indefatigable winds, as explained in the following verses. Wow, it's almost like this weather. This is spring, summer, feels like winter. Text 30. The devastation takes place due to the fire emanating from the mouth of Sankarsana, and thus great sages like Brigu and other inhabitants of Maharloka transport themselves to Janaloka, being distressed by the warmth of the blazing fire which rages through the three worlds below. So you see there are partial devastations, partial devastations, and eventually complete devastation, right? So text 31. At the beginning of the devastation of all the seas overflow, and hurricane winds blow very violently. Thus the waves of the seas become ferocious, and in no time at all, the three worlds are full of water. Wow, just imagine that. It's like horrible. Purport. It is said that the blazing fire from the mouth of Sankarsana rages for 100 years of the demigods, or 36,000 human years. Then, for another 36,000 years, there are torrents of rain, accompanied by violent winds and waves, and the seas and oceans overflow. These reactions of 72,000 years are the beginning of the partial devastation of the three worlds. People forget all these devastations of the worlds and think themselves happy in the material progress of civilization. This is called Maya, or that which is not. Whoa. Text 32. The Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, lies down in the water on the seat of Ananta with his eyes closed, and the inhabitants of the Janaloka planets offer their glorious prayers unto the Lord with folded hands. Purport. We should not understand the sleeping condition of the Lord to be the same as our sleep. Here the word yoga nidra, or specifically mentioned, which indicates that the Lord's sleeping condition is also a manifestation of his internal potency. Whenever the word yoga is used, it should be understood to refer to that which is transcendental. In the transcendental stage, all activities are always present. And they are glorified by prayers of great sages like Brigu. Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll stop right there. So you see, this is a lot of technical explanations here. It is way beyond anything the modern scientists know about. There's no way to compare what they know and what's explained in here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And now we can understand the greatness of Srila Prabhupada is able to write all this. It's unbelievable. And make it somewhat understandable to us. So that means that we should be completely surrendered to the Lord and to the Vaishnava Acharyas, and simply hear Bhagavatam on a regular basis and become more and more humbled by it, right? I mean, look what we just read now. That's very humbling, isn't it? You can't deal with this as a human being. You're completely helpless. Therefore, we should get the real help, and that is become devotees and practice seriously Krishna consciousness. Then we have a chance of becoming liberated from this whole cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, which is a horrible thing. Yeah. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah, it's definitely after reading this, looks like it's not a normal person can write all those things. Right?
No.
I was just reading on my head is like ringing up while just hearing these numbers now.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. So.
Prabhupada's sitting down between 12 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, writing all these purports. You know, it's unbelievable what he did. Unbelievable. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
I
Krishna.
forgot. It doesn't say. I'm trying to make a table to memorize all the numbers.
You are?
Yeah, and I'm halfway through. And I'm reading the chapter a little one more time, but it's not like all of it. I'm just trying to see how much information I can gather from the Bhagavatam to complete it. And I have one question I'm not able to get from the Bhagavatam. Are you able to calculate how many dandas equal prahara?
I am not able to calculate that right now. Those are things we have to look at very carefully. But anyway, you keep looking. I'll also look, and we'll come back again tomorrow and see if we know. But what's important is to be humbled by this. You understand? So we'll be able to understand some things. We won't be able to understand everything because it's transcendental knowledge on the highest level of material, let's say, reality. So the real reality we should be concerned with is the spiritual reality. All this material information is okay. It's there. It's not, let's say, something we should ignore. But we should spend our time more in being good devotees, following the principles of Krishna consciousness, and hearing and chanting on a regular basis. Right? Then gradually all these things will be revealed to us. Right? Because Krishna is in your heart. So Krishna, as Paramatma, is the source of all knowledge. So he can reveal these things to you as you go along. Okay? So you just keep trying, but don't get caught up in all the details. You have to understand what it's meant for. It's to show that Krishna has complete control of the universe and everything about it. And we are completely helpless. So therefore we should completely depend on Krishna. Okay? That's the main thing. If we come to that realization, then we'll be a devotee the rest of our life. And then Krishna will reveal the understanding of all this technical stuff if it's necessary, right, to you. Hare Krishna. Okay, so now we have Aarti.
take a paper.
Go ahead, just start.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Banamui Savadana Mante
Bandamui Savadana Mate
Jahara Pyasave Bai E Baba Toriya Jai
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Baba Tohiya Jai
Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitate Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Koriya Akya
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asha
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Charane Rati Se Uttamagati
Jai Prasad Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेद गाय जहर चरित
वेद गाय जहर चरित
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जय नर बंधु
गुरु करुणा सिंधु राधा
लोके नाथ लोके राजीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पादा छाया ए बेगास गो सुख त्रिभुवाना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
Krishna prasthaya bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pashyata Dishatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pachasya Deshatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivatsarit Gaura Bhakta Binda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitai Gora Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol
Jai Gaura Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvashika Chasta Tarshi Shishi Maris Divine Grace Esi Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Guru Bhakti Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection for fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge.
He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us to shade our lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the 3 worlds. We take shelter under your feet. Srila Prabhupada.